right. We're videotaping for historical preservation in the archives, but the audience will not be videotaped. I'm also going to audio tape it just as a backup. What I'm going to do is go through a formal interview, then we'll open up the floor for questions, and you can ask whatever you want. I already can feel the energy for that. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and I'll start this. We've got our camera rolling. You ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready? Okay.
I think I'm ready.
Well, when I spoke with you on the phone in preparation for this, you told me that you can speak at length about BDSM, kink, leather, and today I hope you'll keep your word.
Okay.
All right. So let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I was actually born in California, Long Beach, California. I was raised in Arkansas and went to school in Arkansas. Left Arkansas, went to Oklahoma, and from Oklahoma I've been in Texas. I actually had a midlife crisis at 30. Left Oklahoma because, and this is actually what I told everybody in the community in Oklahoma, I needed to go out and find my leather sexuality. I had a map all planned out. I was going to go down through Dallas, Dallas to Phoenix, Phoenix to San Diego, LA, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, back to Vegas, over to Omaha, yes, Omaha, Nebraska, Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, New York, Boston, and then down to the southeast, including Florida, Georgia. And I knew I'd stop somewhere. So I made it to Dallas, and that's as far as I made it.
So tell us a bit about your family.
My family. I come from a semi-large family. Was raised a Catholic. Yes, I was beat by the nuns. I enjoyed every minute of it. And you know, I lost my mother in 2000. She was my best friend, and still very close to one of my sisters. I mean, we're a very close-knit family, but I'm closest to one of my sisters. That sister lives in San Antonio, and every year we take a trip together to commemorate the life of my mother, and we normally go on a cruise every year, and we celebrate her life. I remember the first time, when I first told my mother I was gay, I was 26 years old. And of course, like all mothers, she has a hard time with it. And she came to the realization that, you know, there was 5 of us kids, and she would have probably had 5 more. There may have been another gay person out there in the family. Very well received. There's also a videotape of my mother. After she came to the part of accepting who I am and my sexuality and also my lifestyle, because she knew I was also kinky, because I was kinky before I was gay. She, when my little sister graduated from high school, she remarried to a wonderful man, and he passed away a year after she did. So, and I handled the estates of both of them. But the first thing he made her do when they married was to quit her job. Well, she goes, I'm not going to be bored. So she opened antique stores around Arkansas. She had like 8 antique shops. And she was a treasurer of one of the antiques associations in Central Arkansas. And there's a videotape of her in this conference with the president of the association and all the rest of the board members. The mayor's wife of this small town in Arkansas, which is Russellville, Arkansas, is sitting across the table from her. They're getting ready to have elections for the new officers. And my mother, of course, nominates the president, who's also a florist in Arkansas. And the mayor's wife speaks up and she says, well, I don't think we need your kind in this town anymore. My mother said, what do you mean? Well, you know he's gay. My mother turns around and looks at her. She goes, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, and starts crawling across the table to this woman. And it's on videotape. That's my mother. She took no prisoners. I mean, she spoke her mind, and you know, like I said, she was my best friend. My best friend. You know, when I left home at 17 to go to college, I called her every Sunday at 7 o'clock her time, no matter where I was. If I was in Europe, no matter where I was. That's the kind of relationship we had. So that's my family.
I want to backtrack one moment, though, and I'm going to ask the question I know that must be on everybody's minds. What did you do that caused the nuns to beat you?
Anything I could. No, well, first of all, I'm left-handed. I grew up and went to a Catholic church, and the masses today are still given in Latin. That's how, you know, archaic they are still. And they thought I was a demon seed because I was left-handed. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I could be, but, you know. But I continually got in fights. I love to fight. And I think that was just the early kinkster in me coming out. So
you mentioned you were planning to travel all over the United States,
right,
coast to coast. What made you choose to stay in Dallas?
I was in Dallas, and there was a job posting that I thought I wanted to do, and it was a manager for an investment company, Fidelity Investments, and I interviewed with them, and got the job. I stayed in Dallas and traveled to Boston, traveled to California, all over the place with the job. Well, that job in '95 got transferred to Covington, Kentucky. And I thought, well, I have just learned to wear shoes. I am not going to Kentucky. So it was kind of a joke that, you know, somebody from Arkansas saying that Kentucky's more backwards than Arkansas, which we know that's not true, but I decided to stay in Texas and close down the business, which I did, and it was going to take a year to close it down. I closed it down in 3 months, so they gave me a year's severance packet, a year's vacation on top of that, 2 years of health insurance. And what I did with the money is I turned around and opened the Dallas Eagle, because Dallas had no leather bar at the time, and that was in 1995. 3 weeks after the Dallas Eagle opened, I went back to work for Bank One, which was Chase, and I was based out of Columbus, Ohio, and I'd travel every Monday. I'd travel to Columbus, and every Friday travel back to Dallas. Well, in my right after I was hired from with Bank One, the Federal Reserve decided to hire me away from Bank One, and I went to work for the federal government then.
Tell us about your forays into the leather community. You mentioned that you were kinky before you came out as a gay man, so tell us how that transpired.
As a child, I've always been kinky. You know, I would go out and, you know, take boyfriends, and we're talking platonic, just, you know, friends when you were a child, childhood friends, and tie them up and stake them out, and, you know, pour like honey on them and let ants crawl all over them. And, you know, as we got older, or I got older, I started, you know, being a little sadistic with animals. I know this sounds weird, but there was a dog that lived, and he chased cars. And we would put a toad sack around a tire and drive up the road, and this dog would bite the tire, and the dog would roll up the road. You know, and I'm a dog lover. So, I mean, it would actually not hurt the dog, it just flip the dog over, and then we'd sit there and laugh at it. You know, so yes, I was a little sadistic back then. You know, I don't mess with dogs now, so I love dogs. Don't get me, nobody, please, don't come and shoot me. Don't do it. And then I started, you know, in my early teens, started dating girls, and we would actually tie each other up. Mainly, they would tie me up because I enjoyed that. And then, you know, I went through my sexual revolution, where, you know, starting engaging in sex and BDSM at the same time. And then continued on to where I was today, and then realized that men give better blowjobs than women. So,
Generally.
because the men agree, the women don't. Because the men really know how to, give a better blowjob, in my opinion. And that's when I realized I need to be gay. Now, let me also point out that I'm still attracted to women, especially women with big breasts. I haven't figured that one out yet. So I'm just a mixed up little, Oreo cookie.
You did mention that you have a passion for kink and BDSM. What is that passion? What does it mean to you?
It's all about, and in the community, all so often you hear the word energy exchange. And most people use that as a buzzword, not knowing what it really is. If you really look at the raw dynamics of what an energy exchange is, it's the transference and the receiving of energy from one person to the other. It's not one-sided, it's two-sided. And if you don't have that dynamics going on with your play partner, then why play with that person? I always make a statement during my workshops. I get on my little soapbox, very beginning of the workshop. I say, the thing that pisses me off most is going through a play space and seeing two individuals go through the motions of play, and there's not a connection between the two. And you can have a connection on a spiritual, mental, psychological, emotional, or physical level. But if you have none of those, then why are you playing together? Because then it's only showboating. And I enjoy, or I pride myself on being able to find people I connect with on one of those levels, and oftentimes many of those levels. And I enjoy that play because you find that there is a real transference of energy, no matter if you're a top or a bottom. And the bonding experience after that's over with leads to a lifelong friendship.
Fascinating. Well, you are an accomplished workshop presenter. Have you any idea how many you've done?
As of the beginning of this year, there was 1,566 workshops that I've done.
What kinds do you normally do?
Well, I started off doing stuff like waxing, mummification, and much like most people in the SM community can attest to, is our journey in the BDSM lifestyle is evolutionary. We start off with something that we think is kinky or edge play. For instance, when I first started off, I thought, waxing was an edge play. To me, it makes me laugh now. We evolve into a creature that wants more and deeper experiences. So I've done everything from the vanilla SM to the really heavy edge play scenes, both in workshops and dungeon settings.
Is there a particular one that is the most enjoyable for you?
I love breath play.
Is there one that you've always wanted to do that you haven't yet done?
No.
That's quite an accomplishment. So we briefly touched on the opening of the Dallas Eagle, and we would like to know about your passion in channeling your energies into opening that. You mentioned that you had a sum of money and you were able to do that. What went into opening that bar?
The first, and this is the biggest part about opening any bar anywhere, it's finding the perfect location. You had to find a place that had lots of parking. The perfect location was an existing leather bar that went out of business in 1992. It was called the Ripcord. And that bar went from being a leather bar to being a performance bar. And they had mirrors on all the walls, from top to bottom, 24-foot ceilings. And, bobby pins everywhere when we went in. Eyelashes everywhere when we went in. You know, there was things that I didn't even know people wore that, you know, was in this bar when we started renovating. At the same time, I lost my job. I also have a very dear friend who I knew from Oklahoma that had actually lost his job, and he was the executive director of the YMCA in Fort Worth. And he goes, well, what are we going to do? I go, well, let's open a leather bar. Dallas doesn't have one. And he says, I don't know anything about leather. I go, well, I don't know everything about leather either. But I do know that if we make it about the community, it will be a success. And I think that's the problem with most bars that fail. They make it about their vision and not about the community. You have to make it about the community. Much as you do any event that you put on, it has to be about the community. It's not about your vision. It's about what you want it to be for the community. And then you listen to the community about what they want. And you build your business around what they think they need from you.
How was the bar received?
Very well. When I sold the bar in 2008, it had been around for 13 years. Something that's almost unheard of. The very first year of being open in the bar business, we had a profit. You know, I'm not the best person to go out. You know, stuff like this makes me nervous to sit in front of a group of people. I know it doesn't show, but I'm very uncomfortable in a group setting like this. Put me out among people or in a small workshop, I'm great. But put me on stage, and I get extremely nervous. So my business partner can talk to a brick wall and make the wall talk back to him. I can't. My job was to be in the office doing all the paperwork and paying all the bills and making sure that financially it was a success. And that's where my business sense is right now. I like to play a behind the scenes role in everything I do.
That's fascinating. I did read, though, that a former mayor of Dallas visited the Eagle, and
Yes.
I know I'm curious, I think everybody else would be. What did the mayor wear to the Eagle? Chaps and a vest?
The mayor wore a business suit, and Laura Miller, who's the mayor, very dear friend, as with all the city council people are in Dallas. I know them all by first name. And she came in very well received. I mean, the gay community in Dallas loved the mayor. She put a lot of policies in place with the help of the city council to protect, you know, our rights as you know, individuals. And we stood behind her. You know, unfortunately, she did not run again. Last year, she was the grand marshal of the Gay Pride Parade in Dallas, along with myself. And, you know, again, all the city council were there, and they came up to me and said, you know, Mark, why don't you run for city council? I kind of laughed and said, no. And they go, why? They go, because I have a past, and there's pictures. And they go, oh, okay.
Where can we find those pictures?
So, you know, everybody thinks of as Texas as a very conservative state. If you look at the larger cities in Texas, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, they're all very liberal. But it's the outlying communities which are very conservative.
In building in that vein a little bit, the Dallas Eagle was rated in July. And in the Leather Journal, you said Well, I know that this seems like a vendetta against the gay bars of Dallas, but it's not, at least not in this case. What happened?
You know, the Dallas Eagle, and we had actually been planning to open a brand new bar for 5 years. And it took us 5 years to get it open. But they now have opened a brand new bar. But during the grand opening, the new owners did not follow through on transferring the liquor permits, the existing liquor permits, to a new location. And when they didn't do that, they were in violation of the Texas Alcohol Beverage Control Board laws, because the new location had no permit to sell alcohol. So they came in and shut it down. They also fined all the bartenders for serving alcohol. They also fined the bar for operating a business without a dance floor or a dance permit, which is all legally okay. I mean, they, 30 minutes before they got raided, the sheriff was on stage at the bar giving a speech that how nice it was to have a new location in Dallas that people could come to and express their own sexuality. And that sheriff is the only elected lesbian sheriff in North America of a large city. Unfortunately, a lot of the press blew it out of proportion about what happened. That wasn't the case. I mean, the Dallas Eagle screwed up. I got involved the Monday after it happened, went and talked to the city council, called my friends at the TABC, met with the owners, got it resolved, and they were told that it would be 4 to 6 weeks before they could get their paperwork. The next week, the administrator in Austin, where the TABC offices are located, personally drove the new permits up to Dallas to present to the new owners. And that's what that's how you have to have a working relationship with the government offices. I mean, they respect us as the individuals for the most part. And when they don't respect us, then it's our job to educate. And you don't educate by slamming them in the press. You work with them to overcome those differences.
Well, building a little bit more on the conservatism of Texas, I was recently made aware that a couple of years ago, the Governor Perry suggested that gay veterans who are unhappy with Texas's unwillingness to permit gay marriage might consider relocating elsewhere. What are your feelings on that? How was that perceived by the Texas gay community?
Unfortunately, he was elected governor, just like another Texan was elected president. And we all had those burdens to bear through those years. There are people lining up against for him running again, and hopefully we'll get that changed. But we can only get it changed through the electoral process. Are we happy about what he said? No, because he's stupid. But there's a lot of stupid people out in the world. But we can work to change it.
You were president of the National Leather Association International. What drew you to that position?
Education.
How so?
When I was president of the organization, I was actually president of NLA Dallas back in the early years, and this is 1990, 91. And back then I was involved in every aspect of the community I could be involved in. At the time I was president of NLA Dallas, I was also president of the Texas Gay Rodeo Association because I participated in the rodeos. And my big platform back there was to bridge the brown leather community, which are the cowboys, and the black leather community, which are the leathermen, together. And there's a close bond between those groups now in Texas. But what drew me was the fact that the outreach and the education that NLA Dallas did for their community. After I stepped down from NLA Dallas, I ran for the position of Mr. NLA, actually it's National Leather Association International at the time. I won that title and traveled 48 weekends around the country, also North America, educating people on BDSM and what safe, sane, consensual really is. And there's 3 other buzzwords that people use to try to police our community. And in all actuality, safe, sane, and consensual are basically 3 terms that those people who are engaged decide what they are, because whatever is safe, sane, and consensual for you and your partner may not be for another partner. So that was probably the biggest thing that I took on as an ambassador for the title. After I stepped down, I became the treasurer of the organization, and only to find out that we were about $68,000 in debt, and only to find out that we were on the verge of bankruptcy. I also at that point filed our 501c3 papers to make the organization tax exempt, which we got. Trying to pay off the debt was a horrendous experience. But when you love something so much, and I've never said this to anybody before or any group before, I actually wrote a personal check to retire the entire debt of NLA International because I believed in the group, and I still believe in it.
Wow, that's quite something.
So I think that we as a community, when we actually believe in something, we actually support it with everything we have. NLA International is growing strong today. I was the president for 4 years, the wisdom keeper for 2 years, the treasurer for another year after that before I stepped down. And I moved on. And it still holds a lot of fond memories, but I have other things that I'm really interested in right now and given my energies to also. And one of those is Leather Archives, which I think is something that everybody should be involved in. And everybody should support.
Let's explore a little bit about the International LeatherSir Leatherboy contest.
Okay.
How did this come to be?
The International LeatherSir Leatherboy contest, also the International Community Bootblack contest, they're all tied together, and the contests are actually a result of another title that existed, and that was the drummer titles. Unfortunately, the drummer title ran into some financial difficulties and had to be shut down. And from that, the International LeatherSir, Leatherboy and Community Bootblack contest came to fruition. At the time, a person by the name of Mike Zool owned the contest. I actually acquired the contest from Mike in 2007. And there's some changes that I wanted to personally make to the contest. Number one, I wanted it to go back to the roots. I wanted it to be a player's title. And not all about sex. I mean, sex is great, but also play is equally as important. I also wanted to allow transgendered individuals to be able to run and compete for those titles openly. And that was a big change. That was a bitter pill for a lot of people to swallow. I caught a lot of hell from a lot of people. But I still think that was the right thing to do today. And I have no regrets on doing it. Yes, it probably cost us some support out there, but it also gained us some support.
In 2006, you received the Pantheon of Leather Lifetime Achievement Award. Why did you feel that was premature?
because it's kind of like an orgasm. It wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to happen yet. I have so much more to do. I think that your Lifetime Achievement Awards are given to people who are slowing down, people who are stepping back, not necessarily stepping away, but stepping back. And I haven't done that yet. There's bigger things that I want to accomplish out there. And there's other things that I want to see us as a community accomplish. I want to be able to see, 5 years from now that anybody anywhere in the United States can walk in full leather down the street and not, have people talk about them. I want to be able to, tell people who think that we are an abusive community to understand that we're not. Give them one of the DVDs that I created for Out of the Darkness, and which will help explains that SM is not necessarily a bad thing or a bad word. It's just part of who we are.
How can you top that? You're pursuing your education at the moment. Tell us a bit about that.
I am done pursuing my education. I got my master's degree in healthcare administration in February. I got my my degree to be a registered nurse in June. And now I'm pursuing other journeys in life to see where I am going to end up. For those of you who have not heard, on Thursday before I flew up here, I had sold my condo earlier in the week. I packed up my last box and put it in storage on Thursday morning, and I'm starting a new journey in life. Where that leads me, I don't know yet.
So what about you is most misunderstood?
I think that probably the most misunderstood thing about me is...
Sorry about that.
I think the biggest misunderstatement about me is, or people who misunderstand a lot about me is, people think that I am probably stuck up because I really don't go up and initiate a lot of conversations with a lot of people. I'm basically a shy person. And I think people mistake shyness for being standoffish or being stuck in yourself.
What will be your legacy?
That I gave for things that I believed in.
And what a beautiful legacy to have.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.